Blood, gore, intense action, and are things we have come to expect within the Gears of War video game series. Back in November of 2007, Gears of War helped Microsoft push the Xbox 360 into popularity, and to this day is revered as a game that set in motion a trend, the trend of over-the-shoulder cover-based shooters. The question is, can the new Gears of War 5 keep pushing forward, or is it time for an IP change? Hey, this is Obi, and today we will be taking an in-depth look and doing a review of Gears of War 5. For the best audio quality, we recommend that you use a headset or headphones while watching. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell to be the first to check out our weekly content that we upload every Friday. So in order to review this title, we'll be looking at gameplay, sound design, and the overall visuals. Let's start with gameplay. At its core, the gameplay is what you would expect from a Gears of War title. It's an over-the-shoulder, combat-based shooter. At the start of the campaign, you were presented with a tutorial that lasts about 10 to 15 minutes. This tutorial allows you to familiarize yourself with the controls, like the infamous reload, where you have to time your button presses in order not to jam your weapon, getting in and out of cover, and the stealth system that the game has. While it does a good job of getting you back into the feeling of the Gears universe, it's very slow-paced and should have been cut down a bit. After this tutorial, you're finally in the world of the COG. The first chapter of the game is what the Gears of War franchise has built up over the last 4 installments. You'll be running and gunning for cover, hiding behind barricades, and popping heads. If you're a longtime fan of the series, you'll feel right at home. If you've never played Gears of War, at the beginning, this game can be a little overwhelming as you familiarize yourself with the gameplay in the world. The cover system feels smoother, and the gunplay is very grounded. I would like to have seen more feedback in the controller when it comes to combat, but it's not that big of a deal. You are still fighting locusts and the other strange creatures of the past entries, but somehow they feel more intelligent. Often we found them flanking us from behind, and when we narrowed our sights in on them, they would just jump for cover. There are some small stealth portions in this game as well. Being a hulking member of the COG unit with these stealth moments felt out of place. Oh, and do you remember the leeches from Resident Evil 0? They make an appearance in this title as well. Your robotic companion Jack is back in action as well, with some handy upgrades. Jack now has the ability to scan for enemies, blind them out of cover, and set traps for them. Jack can be upgraded with a very small skill tree that requires you to find components that are hidden around the world. Jack can also pick up distant and out-of-reach items that you may spot. However, after just a couple of times of doing this, it becomes tedious as Jack is very slow. You also seem to need him in more situations that we feel unnecessary. Too many times we ran into, "That door is locked. Jack, go through that ventilation shaft and unlock it from the other side." After a quick paced intro during the first chapter, the second chapter slows things down. This part of the game surprised us. This is where you get to explore and kind of get a feeling of the world at your own pace. You were brought into a small open world. We say small because it's not totally open like you would have come to expect in most other games. You gain the ability to drive a skiv, using a sail to propel yourself. The skiv handles like you would expect from this title. It's not terrible, but it feels like a second thought. We did enjoy being able to relax and just take in the world as you explore, since you have not been able to do this in the game's predecessors. There's not much to find out in the tundra. However, you can pick up some upgrades for Jack if you look hard enough. Boss fights are nothing more than glorified bullet sponges. Even though you will be taking on different bosses, taking them down is typically the same. Find the weak spot and fill it with lead. We do wish there was more of a variety in this aspect of the game. As far as the story goes, it's an interesting one. We don't want to go into detail due to giving away spoilers. However, it's definitely the best one in the series for delivering the most in-depth narrative. With that being said, we don't want to overshadow the story points between Dom and his wife, as we know this will upset many of the older fans. This story is deeper and goes more involved than in the past games of the series. Also, the lore you're given through listening to the NPCs feels deeper as well. You can get a lot of information about what's going on in the world just by eavesdropping on conversations. There will be some heartfelt moments along the way, so don't always expect the powerful, dark tones of the game's past. Oh, and a quick note, Marcus is as grumpy as ever. There are 5 new weapons you can choose from in Gears 5. The Lancer GL, Flashbang, the Claw, Cryo Cannon, and the Breaker Mace. Each feels unique and is a great way of mixing up your playstyle. As far as your weapons go, you will need to swap out your loadout frequently to match your situation. Gears of War 5 multiplayer is great fun, but is difficult to pick up. However, if you can actually stick it out and get good at it, it can feel very rewarding. There are 7 new multiplayer maps to choose from. There is Asylum, Bunker, District, Exhibit, Icebound, Training Grounds, and Vaskar. Old maps from Gears of War 4 make a return as well. Online co-op is still available for those just looking to play through the Gears of War 5 full story. Moving on to visuals, the look of the game is great again for what you would expect from a Gears of War title. Back during the original title's release, Gears of War pushed the limits of the Xbox 360, but this title does not seem to have that same effect. While the world design is pretty to look at, given the situation, don't expect flowing hair or great facial movement. There are two moments while playing this title when you will really notice the game's overall design: when you're out and about and just exploring the world, or you're deep underground and being swarmed by locusts. But to wrap up this part, don't expect any groundbreaking visuals. The overall design does have more detail though. You will notice this more when roaming the city streets, looking into shops, and seeing the vendors skirted around town. While you may not notice these improvements, we certainly did. Sound design is a hard one to focus on in this title. What we mean by that is there's so much going on at one time, it's hard to pick out individual sounds. You will recognize the blanketing of gunfire from distant battles, and the soundtrack suits every situation. The overall melody of the soundtrack is very strong and brings with it the fierceness of battle. We do wish the sounds of the guns were more updated. It's hard to notice these gunshots as they sound drowned out by everything else going on. The Lancer's chainsaw is still the best sound in the game as you rip your way through your enemies. The ambient creature noise does sound great and helps drench you in the situation. We have never had a concern with the voice acting in the preceding games, and there is no exception here. Voice acting is just as great as it's always been. This game is filled with strong voice actors with even stronger voices to follow. When walking over interior carpet, it sounds like you're walking through grass, but we don't want to nitpick. The Gears of War franchise has been around for 11 years, and we think it's time for an update. While we did enjoy this title, we feel like the series has gotten a little stale and needs a nice facelift. The franchise has been surviving off clone mechanics for 5 entries now, and while some mechanics have been updated over the years, we think it's not enough to keep us begging for more. If you're an admitted die-hard fan of the series, then we think you'll enjoy this new rendition of the Gears universe. If this is your first portrayal and are thinking about picking up Gears of War 5, we would suggest that you wait for a drop in retail price or for sale. However, you can pick up Gears of War 5 for free with Xbox Game Pass. With that being said, even though we didn't feel that this was the best game to release this year, every time we wanted to put the controller down, the story kept pushing us forward and is the best part of this installment. Well, there you have it guys, our review of Gears of War 5. Now we want to know, are you a fan of the series? Do you think Gears of War 5 is for you? Would you purchase this title? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that like button as it helps us reach a broader audience and we really appreciate it. And also, if you have yet to do so, consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell to be the first to see our weekly content that releases every Friday. You can also follow us on Twitter by clicking the link in the description below. Until next time, this is Obi signing out. See you guys next time.